There at that time tries to bury, but that continue to pulsate in the shadows, astonishing anyone who dares to investigate. Some cases defy logic, science, and even common sense, leaving mineral traces so deep that they become immortal. This is one of these cases. Imagine one young man traveling alone through one of the most watched countries of the world. She stays in one hotel with one dark past and decides to explore the surroundings. Days later, disappears without a trace. When your body is finally found, the location is so absurd that defies any plausible explanation. And even before its disappearance, security cameras record your last moments. Disturbing, disconcerting, inexplicable. This is the mystery of Elisa Lam, the young Canadian who was last seen in an elevator of the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. The footage, widely publicized, showed Elisa acting erratically, like I'm running away from something or someone who wasn't there. What happened to Elisa Lam? It was murder, suicide, or there is something more obscure behind his death. Something that neither science nor reason can explain. Prepare to enter the dark corridors of the unknown. This is the first episode of our Files series. Lines and nothing will be softened. The truth, if it exists, is hidden over layers of rock, speculation, and fear. And today, we're going to tear these layers, one by one. It was the beginning of 2013 when Elisa Lam, a 21-year-old Canadian girl, decided to do something that many students his age dream: one trip alone across the United States. Daughter of Chinese immigrants, Elisa grew up in Vancouver and faced, in Stockholm, internal battles with your mental health. Diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression, she found refuge in writing. Your personal blog, Ether Fields, was one space where he expressed deep thoughts, often distressed, but always funny and loaded with poetry. Elisa was thirsty to know the world, not as a tourist, but as someone who was looking for something else, a reunion with itself. Your journey began with enthusiasm. She documented the trip on social media, sharing everyday experiences with an honesty that captivated Julia. After passing through cities in Romania as San Diego, Elisa arrived in Los Angeles on January 26th. It was then that he chose to stay at the Cecil Hotel, an old building erected in the decade of 1920 in the center of known for its dark past. Although many tourists do not forget this when booking, Cecil was more than a hotel, was a relic stained by disturbing stories. Suicides, overdoses, murders. Between its walls, there were already serial killers such as Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, and Jack Hunter Vergara. Even with reforms and rebranding attempts, over the years, the hotel never got rid of its heavy aura. Almost equal, Lisa's stay started normally. She shared a room with other travelers, but was soon relocated to 1-4 individual. After complaints of strange behavior, officials reported that Elisa acted unusually, spoke alone, looked nervous, and restless with everything. None of that drew so much attention. After all, in one hotel with more than 604, eccentric behaviors were almost part of the landscape. On January 31, Elisa Lam disappeared. She didn't check out. Your bags were still in the room. Your personal belongings were organized, like she was coming back. There were no signs of a break-in, violence, or hasty flight. It was as if she had simply evaporated inside the hotel. The family, desperate, flew from Canada to Los Angeles and pressured the local police to start the search. Immediately, posters were scattered through the streets. Sniffer dogs searched the hotel. More unfortunately, when they arrived at coverage, where the building's water tanks are located, the dogs didn't detect anything. For 2 weeks, Elisa was considered missing. Hotel guests. I started complaining about the water coming out of the taps. Had a strange taste, a dark color, and very low pressure. Some described the water as thick and smelled bad. On the 19th of February, a hotel employee, after recurring complaints, decided to go up to the roof to check the water tanks. When opening one of the reservoirs, found Elisa Lam's body floating, completely naked, with your clothes and personal objects floating beside. The news ran the world, but Elisa's death raised more questions than answers. As she reached the water tank, the terrace entrance was locked, raises alarms that were not triggered. The tank hatch was heavy and difficult to open. There were no cameras recording your movement after the elevator. No witnesses, no scream, no noise, and then came the video. Shortly before disappearing, Elisa was filmed by a security camera on the hotel elevator. The video is about 4 minutes long and shows the young woman walking into the elevator, pressing several buttons and acting erratically. She seems to hide in the corner, peek out like someone is, gesticulate to nothingness, and move your arms strangely, almost as if struggling with a presence. Invisible. The video went viral, adding millions of views and generating a wave of theories on social media. Some claimed that Elisa was suffering from one psychotic outbreak. Other saw Ali one typical behavior of someone being followed by threatened. But there were those who believed in something more, something supernatural, and the more one investigated, more bizarre everything became. Elevator video has become an icon of mystery. It was impossible not to feel uncomfortable. I watched it. The way Elisa pressed the buttons all at once. The hesitation in and out of the cabin. The weird hand gestures, as if interacting with something invisible. Everything seemed out of the ordinary. What stood out most was the absence of sounds. Absolute silence made anguish grow. Every second, many claimed that the video had been edited, that part of the Constitution had been cut off. Theories based on strange speed of movement or impossible timeline cuts. This supposed manipulation reinforced even more suspicions that something was being hidden by the authorities or by the hotel management. After all, if Elisa was just having a flare, why edit the images? The necropsy performed days later revealed an even more disturbing detail. No substance. Illicit was found in Elisa's body. Only traces of medication used in the treatment of bipolar disorder. The analysis suggested that she had not taken correctly the medicine in the days before his death. But that still didn't explain how. She went up to the terrace, a technically area, entered the water tank, took off his clothes and drowned. Another inconsistency arose. The report said that the body did not present signs of trauma, physical violence or sexual abuse, but the water tank cover, that it was too heavy for a single person to lift. It was closed. When the body was found, it would be possible that Elisa had enough strength to go in and still close the lid inside. Or someone would have done it for her. Theories began to multiply. One of the most commented on the internet involved paranormal forces, or even Cecil, with its history of tragedies and crimes, was seen by many as one absorption point of negative energies. Some said that Elisa was being tormented by spirits. Others believed that she had become part of a ritual, intervenes intensively. Few days after the body was found, government reports circulating about guests who heard on the ceiling. During the early morning, security even said he heard water noises being scrambled in the boxes, even after the tank has been emptied and sealed. Sensationalism, perhaps, but to a place that was already seen as cursed. Any detail fed the myth even more. Another controversial theory, and this gained prominence in international forums, Ligava or Elisa Lam case, There is an old mind control experiment called MK Ultra, allegedly carried out by the CIA. Between the 50s and 70s, theorists suggested that Elisa's erratic behavior could be the result of some kind of test with psychological manipulation, things still ongoing, using vulnerable people in isolated locations. There was no clear evidence, but the mystery was enough fuel. Enquanto isso, Elisa's parents demanded answers. The lawsuit against the Cecil Hotel alleging negligence, security flaws and relief omission. But for the public, the death of Elisa Lam had already gone beyond the bounds of common justice, become a symbol of the inexplicable. After the initial report, the circumstances that involved the disappearance of Elisa Lam becomes essential. Analyze the psychological and social context that permeated the young Canadian in those days. Elisa wasn't just an ordinary tourist. She was a dedicated psychology student at the British University, Columbia, someone who was looking for understand the human mind, and in parallel faced its own internal challenges. Close friends reported that Elisa had episodes of erratic behavior that could be related to a possible bipolarity or even side effects of psychiatric medications, that she would have mentioned using the complexity of your mental state lifts fundamental questions about liability of the environment in which he found himself. Cecil Hotel, located in downtown Los Angeles, is known not only for its strategic location, but also for its gloomy reputation, stage of numerous tragic and mysterious incidents. Over the decades, some former employees and temporary locals reported unexplained episodes, like apparitions and strange sounds in the halls. Select one scenario that, although it may look like a mere urban legend, cannot be given the frequency and consistency of these reports. On the 31st day of January 2013, a cloud hotel elevator security system went viral on the internet, shocking the world audience and fueling even more theories and speculation. The video shows Elisa entering the elevator and then behaving in an unusual and disconcerting way, pressing all the buttons, looking out of the elevator as if you see something or someone, and gesticulating with his arms in an agitated way. Their behavior gives rise to different interpretations. She would be in one psychotic outbreak, would be trying to escape some invisible threat, or it could be something more delicate. This footage that should help clarify the last moments before disappearance of the young, paradoxically, intensified the mystery. Specialists in human behavior, psychologists and researchers were called upon to analyze every gesture and expression of Elisa. With everything, no definitive conclusion has been reached, or that feeds the feeling that we are facing and that challenges rational explanations. Beyond, the police investigation revealed a series of flaws and contradictions in the treatment of the case. The hotel, by discovering Elisa's disappearance, slowed down the authorities. What may have compromised evidence collection and a dinner lamp. In addition, the young woman's body was found days later in a water tank on the roof of the hotel, a hard-to-reach place, whose entrance was locked. This fact raises doubts about how Elisa would have gotten there alone, reinforcing theories involving the possibility of third parties or even hidden forces be involved in what happened. This episode raised a broader debate on security and conditions in old hotels, the vulnerability of people with mental disorders, and the role of the media in the construction of narratives in cases of disappearance. Elisa Lam's story continues to fascinate and disturb, leaving an indelible mark on popular culture. And in the records of unsolved, the impact of the discovery of Elisa Lam's body in the water reservoir was immediate and deep. So much for the police, and for the local community, and the global audience that followed the case. The condition of the body, underwater and in state, advanced decomposition, made it difficult to perform a conclusive autopsy, making it nearly impossible to accurately determine the exact causes of death. The authorities, however, declared officially that there were no signs of physical aggression, such as injuries or external trauma. What took to the verdict to eliminate from accidental death by drowning. Still, this conclusion was not accepted by all, especially in the face of numerous conflicting details and the unusual circumstances surrounding the case. Access to the roof of the Cecil Hotel, where the reservoir was located, was restricted and considered practically to guests and ordinary visitors. Locked doors and railed stairs should have prevented any approximation, which raises questions about how Elisa managed to get there alone. If you did, this fact fueled alternative theories, since the possibility of external help, even that kiss, the supernatural. In addition, testimonials from other guests and staff reported strange events at the hotel. During the period of disappearance, some mentioned hearing inexplicable noises and have seen shadows moving in the uninhabited corridors. These stories, although difficult to prove, contributed to the aura of mystery and restlessness that started to involve the place, transforming the Cecil Hotel in an almost mythical setting of urban terror. In the social field, a case of Elisa Lam also sparked a deeper debate around mental health, especially in young people who are away from the hustle and bustle familiar and face emotional difficulties. Media exposure exacerbates, in many moments, reduced the young woman to a simplistic stereotype, neglecting the complexity of their condition and the nuances involving psychiatric disorders. This generated reflections important on the responsibility of the press and the public in dealing with experimental stories. The police investigation, although official and widely publicized, left gaps that still intrigue researchers today, amateurs, true crime fans, and the general public. The absence of clear answers made the case of Elisa Lam transcend the legal and police scope, entering the field of cultural speculation, influencing artistic productions, documentaries, and debates on digital platforms. This mystery obtained no evidence how, even in a world hyperconnected and packed with advanced technology, certain stories stick around, in shadows, challenging our understanding and feeding the fascination with the unknown. Elisa Lam's grandmother. Its quest for answers and its tragic end continue to reverberate, inviting us to reflect on human fragility, the role of mental health, and styles that time has not been able to erase. Another aspect that deserves attention in the case of Elisa Lam is the repercussion that the incident provoked in the context of social networks and were specializing in unsolved crimes. Elevator video circulation went viral quickly, generating a series of debates, theories, and various interpretations that have spread globally. Platforms like Reddit, YouTube, and several blogs began to discuss, analyze, and deconstruct every movement captured in the images, seeking to unravel hidden clues or messages. Subthresholds. This phenomenon of viralization and participation collective in the investigation of the case is a reflection of magnetic dynamics, where the public is no longer content to be mere spectator but takes on the role of digital detective. Despite this intense exposure also had consequences, negative, such as the dissemination of false information, unfounded theories, and even attacks on the privacy of the young woman's family. This polarization between the search for justice and media sensationalism brings up a relevant discussion on ethics and responsibility in the consumption and production of content about real cases. Still in the investigative scope, it is important to note that the Los Angeles Police Department, APD, officially closed the case as an accident. No signs of murder or suicide. However, this official conclusion did not close the public debate that persists to the present day independent researchers, detectives, amateurs and enthusiasts of the genre true crime continue to revisit the case, seeking new interpretations and possible evidence that can shed light on what really occurred at that fateful January 2013. Beyond the mystery surrounding Elisa's last moments, the question of hotel security. Cecil gained notoriety, often pointed out as has a long history of tragic events, including suicides, deaths from causes, natural under circumstances, suspicions. This reputation, the precariousness of the infrastructure, and negligence in security protocols led to a critical review, the conditions offered by the establishment, culminating in measures to improve guest safety and the public in general. Finally, the case of Elisa Lam transcends her own tragedy, becoming a magical symbol of the challenges faced by young people amid psychological disorders, the complexity of modern generations, and the influence of digital culture on perception, public about mystery and death. This story continues to echo like a warning and a profound reflection on the limits of reason, of empathy, and justice in an increasingly complex and connected world. Over the years, the case of Elisa Lam became part of a kind of urban mythology. Digital, the figure of the young woman in the elevator, your restless look and your gestures, became icons of a generation marked by fear from the invisible, of what cannot be explained only logically. Documentaries were produced, like California, titled Mystery Unsolved, Death at the Cecil Hotel, rekindling the public interest and reintroducing the case into current debates on justice, ethics, and mental health. However, it is essential to understand that behind the commotion and mystery, there was one real young man. Elisa wasn't just one face in one video, or one piece in one disturbing puzzle. Was one daughter, one sister, one princess who traveled alone in search of new experiences, recording everything on your personal blog. His written words revealed sensitivity, continues, mood, and a deep desire to connect with the world, although many times felt displaced inside it. This human dimension is often overlaid by aura of suspense that built up around his death. The memory, the debate about Elisa's emotional and mental state gained a new depth as experts have come to discuss openly. The way you move, as you did bipolar, are treated not just from a medical point of view, but also social. The stigmatization, misinformation, and isolation are still barriers faced by millions of people around the world, and cases like Elisa's escape the need of urgent empathy and understanding. In the field of theories, some of the most daring proposals were not abandoned. There are those who believe that Elisa would have been the victim of secret experiments, or still, that would be involved with paranormal phenomena. Others point to the fact that the case presents macabre synchronicities, such as the coincidence of a tuberculosis outbreak among homeless people in the vicinity of the hotel that would have occurred days after the disappearance of the young woman. The name of the test used to diagnose the outbreak, Elisa. Such detail, although scientifically explainable, served as fuel for the most interpretations. Cecil Hotel, in turn, underwent several rebranding attempts over the years, changed name, management, tried to reconstruct your story, but the weight of the past remains on every floor, at each door, in every record made by visitors who swear to feel heavy, dense energy. Impossible to ignore, the place has become a tourist spot, in for the curious of the macabre, but also a symbol dark of social negligence, urban misery and silent suffering. Or Elisa Lam case, even officially closed by the police, remains open in the collective consciousness. More than an inconclusive investigation, became a living narrative that resurfaces with each new cycle, as if time refuses to allow oblivion. And maybe, Precisely because of this, the mystery of his death continues to echo, not just for what we know, but mainly for everything we still cannot understand. The story of Elisa Lam remains like an open wound on silent pages of undetected files. Your case is more than a police roadblock. Is the disturbing portrait of a youth, marked by loneliness, by the invisible weight of mental disorders, and by a search for belonging. Even with all the generations, with the medical reports, with the reports, forensics, and with the thousands of minutes of analysis in videos and forums online still pyres about this case, one question that has never been clearly answered. What really happened to Elisa that night? The absence of concrete answers forces us to confront what we fear most, the possibility that sometimes the world just doesn't offer us logic. And it is precisely this gap between what is real and what is inexplicable that keeps the case alive. Elisa became, involuntarily, an icon of human frailty before the abyss that opens between what we can control and what completely escapes us. Today, more than a decade later, your story stills as the building where it all happened, as the minds of those who accompanied, day after day, each new theory, every new detail, and above all, is the silence of the authorities in the face of questions that were never answered. But perhaps Elisa's greatest legacy is precisely this, that of forcing us to look into the invisible, for the battles that others face without our knowledge, for the screams, silences that get lost between empty elevators, doors that do not open, and looks that no one else sees. If you got this far, it's because, just like us, refuses to let these stories be forgotten. What do you think really happened to Elisa Lam? Do you believe in the official version, or, as well as thousands of people around the world, feels there is something more behind this story? Share your theory in the comments. We want to hear your voice. If you appreciate this type of content,